Now, Moses Kuria is one of President William Ruto's key economic advisors. Now, a day before the president completed his one-week Mount Kenya tour, Moses Kuria decided to massage the ego of the president in what I can refer to as comfortably as an outright lie to the head of state. Here's what he said, and I quote, "Amateurs and paper tigers will fall by the sides. Only pros will remain. This is Kenyan Political PGA Gold Lesson of the Week. The makeup is peeling off. Nabado." Now, apparently Moses Kuria is referring to President William Ruto as the pro of politics. He's saying that amateurs and paper tigers are falling off. So what Moses Kuria is referring to, actually he's making a particular reference to the Mount Kenya tour that President William Ruto was undertaking last week. So he is essentially trying to communicate that the ground is so solid for William Ruto in the mountain and that he has a very solid foundation, he has a very solid support, which is contrary to what we saw. Now take for example in Embu.
Nimekuja Embu, mambo manne ya muhimu. Mambo manne ya muhimu. Jambo la kwanza, nimekuja hapa maneno ya stima. Watu wa Embu waliniambia ya kwamba hapa Embu bado tuko na watu wengi hawana stima. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Si kweli ama si kweli? Mimi nimekuja hapa ili kuhakikishe watu wa Embu ambao polepole. Nimekuja hapa kuhakikishe ya kwamba watu wa Embu wamepata stima. Leo hapa tunaanzisha mradi wa kuunganisha.
The residents of Embu walked out of the venue when President William Ruto began to make an address. They actually heckled him and walked out. Now again in Kiambu County, residents heckled the hell out of the president and made it very clear that they are not interested in whatever thing that the president wanted to say. All they were interested in are the development, the projects that the president had successfully done within the 2 years that he was in office. Now, this was the heckling that we saw in Kiambu County. Now again in Tharaka Nithi, William Ruto was chased away and called bad names. And this is something that you cannot see in the mainstream media. We have the video here for your inspection. Here is it. Now it is quite ridiculous for Moses Kuria, who is an economic advisor to the president, to claim publicly that only pros like William Ruto will survive in politics, despite what we saw in the mountain, despite the hostilities that we saw in Nyeri, that we saw in Kiambu, that we saw in Tharaka Nithi and Embu, and all the other areas and other stopovers that the president had made. Now the people Moses Kuria is referring to as amateurs and paper tigers are the faction allied to the former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua. Kuria is saying that these people are peeling off and only pros like President Ruto will remain standing when push comes to shove and when the temperatures rise beyond the boiling point. I don't agree with this because as we've seen, there were goons and boda guys that were hired and paid large sums of money to escort the president and to go cheer the president in the mountain. The videos are there, and Devon Standard itself had reported that the crowds that were cheering the president in the mountain region were very expensive crowds and they were paid hefty amounts of money to accompany the president. So that should tell us that the crowds that we saw were inorganic, and therefore what Moses Kuria is trying to communicate is simply not accurate. What he's doing is simply massaging the ego of the president. He knows very well that the king is already naked, the goose is already cooked, and that what has occurred is an irreversible reaction, something that cannot be undone. Instead of telling the president to start packing, to start preparing to vacate office come 2027, Moses Kuria is massaging the ego of the head of state, because he does not have the courage to face the commander-in-chief and tell him outrightly that, you know, man, this one is gone and there's nothing that you will do. There's absolutely nothing you will do to salvage this situation. The people have decided that they've got nothing to do with you. All they want to see are the projects, the development projects that you've so far executed. It brings us back to what former public service CS Justin Muturi was talking about, that the president is a bully. You cannot speak your mind in the president's cabinet. That's why people like Moses Kuria have only resorted to massaging the ego of the president, lying to the president, because he cannot afford to tell the president the truth, lest he loses his job. Tell me what you think about this in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more informative content such as this.